Welcome to Center Stage this week on WDLTV. Is Detroit a place for business, innovation, and activism? Most of the time we talk about the city of Detroit, people have all kinds of opinions. You read what the media reviews are saying. You think that all hell is broken loose. You talk to people outside of Detroit. They act as if, the city is not a livable place. But when you talk to people within the city of Detroit itself, they have a different opinion. And the question has always been, in fact, is this city the real place for business, innovation, or activism? Well, what we have in our studio is a man who has been very innovative in heralding, if you will, some of the top restaurants in this city. A businessman in himself, an entrepreneur, Frank Taylor from the Southern Hospitality Group.
Thank you.
Thank you
nice
for coming.
To be here.
Thank you for coming on Center Stage. Let me cut right to the chase, Frank, the Mr. Taylor, of course. The business climate in the city of Detroit. From your perspective, what is happening?
Well, you know what? I'm not originally from Detroit, but I live here and have been here for the past 10 years, operating restaurants for the past 7.5 years. And I've seen the climate go up and down, but Detroit is like any other city. It's going to go through its tough times as well as, and it'll have its good times, but of course it's the place to do business. I mean, I've lived across this country, so you cannot just say Detroit's not the place to do business. I mean, I've had my restaurants here and they've done quite well. However, with the latest recession and everything that we've been to, it's put a strain on them. But you can't give up on the city, and that's what so many people so often do. As long as things are going great there, it's great time, but when it gets a little tough, they start to run and say, well, it's not the place to do business, and when that's not the truth.
Let's delve into the Southern Hospitality Group before I switch the pendulum to another issue here in terms of what your restaurants are doing. You're reorganizing, actually, your restaurants right now, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Seldom Blues, as well as the Detroit Breakfast House. Seldom Blues, in specific, went through, I'm taking it through a reorganization, due to the fact that 5.5 years ago, when I moved into General Motors, that building at the Renaissance Center, that building was like a city within itself. I mean, it had thousands of people in that building, people coming down with their corporate credit cards, et cetera, et cetera. Today, that building is kind of like a ghost town. I mean, they've had a number of layoffs. No one could have told me 5.5 years ago that GM would be going through a reorg, one of the largest company in the country.
Right.
So that's had an effect on Seldom Blues, lunch business, as well as afternoon and evening business. So you have to be smart at what you do, and it's a business that I've had for 5.5 years. It's a business that I intend to see in the city of Detroit for another 15 years. So you have to do the right thing. You look at all options, and what is that option? That option is to reorganize.
So, and of course, there is also the Detroit Fish Market as well.
Yeah, well, the Detroit Fish Market is a brand new entity. No, and it's definitely not going, because it's brand new. It's done extremely well since we opened in January. I mean, we've gotten off to a great start. It's continuing to be popular. I think it's a great seafood restaurant downtown, and people have really been very supportive of that concept.
What's the general feeling among small business owners like yourself in this city here? Do you get the support that is needed?
Well, you know what, the feeling amongst the business people, it's tough. It's tough on everyone. It's tough on, especially in this climate when you've had, again, the big three go down, and you've got, the city of Detroit facing massive layoffs. And, those are all of my customers. When you're laying off thousands of people, well, that's thousands of people that will not come in to Seldom Blues or the Detroit Breakfast House for lunch or dinner. So all of that has a negative effect on my business. But, and for all business, all small businesses here, and the support has to be, from companies like General Motors that went through the same thing, that got major support from the government,
tax bailout,
a $50 billion bailout. Well, they have to turn around and see what they can do to help small businesses, and one of those small businesses happened to be mine in their building, because we don't have, as a small business, We can't look to the government for a tax bailout.
Well, one of the issues, actually, a lot of small business advocates have been pressing the Obama administration to bail out the small business community in the country as well, but that has not been done yet.
No, it hasn't, and I think it needs to be looked at. It needs to be looked at, or pressure needs to be put on, like I say, the companies like the big banks that was given, the billions of dollars. What are they doing? They're still are calling loans and that type of thing when they've gotten billions of dollars of bailout. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword there, and it affects the smaller businesses. The big businesses, they make it because they've gotten the money. The smaller businesses, in turn, struggles.
Let's talk about, the city is going through a political transformation. We have an election in November for mayor, city council, the charter commission. Are there any ramifications in terms of how that could affect what small businesses are doing in the city? Yeah,
I mean, unfortunately, over the past, couple of years now, with from all of the past administration, mayors thing that happened to the city, that caused the city, thousands of dollars in business, from the mayor's conference being canceled. That was a direct reflection on my business because we had counted on that business being in. Through everything that the city council goes through, that's a negative effect to people that don't want to come down to the city. It's got to be, for me, I'm looking forward to having some type of stabilization once and for all, whether it's, Mayor Bing that's put back in office or whomever, but it's got to get to a point that we've just got to be stabilized with a mayor that's in there that's leading us, and the right city council people that's in there leading us, and you kind of get past all of that stuff because it's a major distraction. It's a major distraction for people wanting to come into the city and do business, and I hear that all the time.
Time magazine recently, and I treated this in another discussion, in another program actually, but I think it's just so significant that, I'm going to continue to talk about it. Time magazine did a front page article, actually it was a cover page about Detroit, and they said the decline of a great American city and what it needs to do to rise up. And I had Cindy Paskey from Strategic Staffing Solutions and Doug Rothwell, who is the president of the Michigan Association of CEOs. They call them business leaders for Michigan. And they were very critical about, the portrayal of Detroit in that kind of magazine because they said it doesn't help investors to come in. And I'm looking at what the potential impact here is for small businesses. If the big companies are saying, well, this doesn't help us, and what does it do for small businesses?
I mean, really, it's a major blow to a small business when you have companies and CEOs around the country reading that stuff about the city of Detroit. What will make them come to the city of Detroit? I mean, that's the conventions that we depend on, the conventioneers for business, having those people come in for dinner, having those people come in and fill hotel rooms. And with that, they look at other cities like a Houston and Chicago and other places like that instead of the city of Detroit. So for us, it's a major blow.
What needs to happen to get small businesses to thrive and blossom in this city and stay here for a very long time?
Well, first of all, the city needs to believe in the city itself. I mean, we've got, still whatever the population is, 900,000 people. We as a city needs to come together first. I mean, sometimes we're most critical of ourselves. We're the first one sometimes that'll jump on a plane and go out of town and spend money, or jump in our cars and drive 50 miles. You need to support the city itself first and foremost, and also be the biggest cheerleader about the city that you're in. And these bigger companies, your General Motors, your Comerica Banks, your JP Morgans, they need to support small businesses.
Well, thank you very much, Frank Taylor from the Southern Hospitality Group, talking about small business and the future of small business in the city. When we come back, again, still on our topic, is Detroit the city for business, innovation, and activism? Well, we have two young thinkers who are doing a lot in the city, and they will give us their opinion. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. You're watching WADL TV 38.